Alright, what is going on YouTube? The Viper versus Aussie Drongo over here in this 1v1 game in the pre-release streamer event of Age of Empires 4. I don't think I have to introduce Viper to anyone here. And on the other side, there's Aussie Drongo, who you might not know if you're from the AoE2 community. He's a high-level AoE3 player and caster, and he's very much invested into Age of Empires 4. So he's probably the person that spends the single most hours in the entire game. Has made like, I don't know, 50 videos just out of the test stress that was like 3 days long. Everybody was looking at his content and were like, dude, how is it even possible that you made like, I don't know, 20 hours of material in like 48 hours of time? He spent a ridiculous amount of time in the game already. He's going to be playing red Rus on the right side, and on the left side we'll have Aussie Drongo as blue Holdrom Empire. And do you see, did I say Aussie Drongo? Excuse me. So Drongo is on the right with Rus, and on the left there is Viper with the Holdrom Empire in blue. So you see, Drongo is coming in immediately with his scout to try and take down as many huntables from Viper over here, because he wants to get as much bounty as he can. Viper realized what's going on, and he actually went on to take down the huntables himself to try and limit the opponent's bounty from that. There is a patch of huntables here that might go unnoticed for quite a while because it's at a quite weird spot at the top of the mountain. Drongo, of course, can use the second scout he pops out from the hunting cabin to go for these huntables, and also he will probably be looking for some wolves to take down. There's one over here. There is no more on the right side, so not a lot of wolves here for Drongo to take down. You see, he starts off with the hunting cabin. This is not necessarily an amazing one. It's only 17 gold per minute, which is a little underwhelming, but I guess that's the best for us he can place that, so I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying that I have seen better gold income from hunting cabins in my life. Meanwhile, for the Viper, he's already mining gold. With the Holdrom Empire, he needs to do that, of course, and he's going to boost his food income with the prelate. That's probably the best way to do this, although it looks like he actually did a bit of an overkill here, because you see that he already has the food to click up the feudal age, but not the gold. This is a delicate balance, because if you sort of boost all your food gatherers, you need more on gold, because you will reach the required amount of food a lot faster. Is that a major problem for Viper? I don't think so, because he's not gonna be that much delayed into feudal age. In fact, considering that the Rus players usually hit feudal age a little later, because they spend a lot of food on the early scouts, it's usually not a problem that you are a little delayed into feudal age compared to the Rus. Now, the problem that Viper is facing here is he's going to find the huntables here, and he's going to take down as many of them as he can before Drongo gets the bounty. As I said, this patch of deer might go unnoticed here by both players. So, we will have the Aachen Chapel coming in for Viper. That's a beautiful spot for that building. Look at that. In its influence radius, you have the lumber camp, the mining camp, and even the villagers close to the TC. So, basically, when you garrison a prelate inside this one, it's going to boost your entire economy. That is absolutely amazing for the Viper. Meanwhile, for Drongo, looking at his resources, he's getting close to clicking up as well. So, considering that he's got a forward wood line, I think that the Kremlin makes some sense for him. He's getting a second hunting cabin out here. So, a Kremlin here, or here, would boost the lumber camp and also would provide protection. The alternative, of course, is the Golden Gate, which would allow him to go for a second TC, which would be somewhere around over here, most likely. So, the Holy Roman Empire is a pretty tough matchup against civilizations that do have early knights available. That is because, you know, you are mostly focused on your early men-at-arms or spearmen, but your men-at-arms are pretty much hard countered by the knights. It's more like a soft counter, actually, but men-at-arms can't really win by battles against the knights. And then your spearmen can be just picked off by a couple of archers, and in exchange you don't really have much that can deal with knights aside from your spearmen. Viper actually was pretty successful grabbing a lot of sheep here across the map. He also has a very efficient mill here on the berries and on the hunt, so I have to say that Viper's efficiency here in terms of economy is absolutely stellar. So, Arcane Chapel done for Viper. You see, this means that the prelate can just buff the entire economy, making it super efficient for the Viper. Meanwhile, here come a couple of scouts here from Drongo. Once he is done collecting all the bounty, of course, he can just move up and try to harass Viper as much as possible. He's got 4 scouts actually combined, and he could try to pick off villagers on the hunt, or hunt? What am I talking about? Try to pick off villagers on the gold. In fact, he's right now trying to set this house on fire, but I don't like that from Drongo, excuse me. The reason why is because, you see, Viper can pop the emergency repairs ability, which basically extinguishes the fire and heals the building up at a very, very rapid pace. Against the Holy Roman Empire early on, you can't really destroy their buildings, because everything in this orange or golden influence radius is affected by the emergency repairs ability, something that Viper popped. And this is the reason why I think that Drongo would have been better off if he just goes for the gold miners over here. Viper doesn't have a production building currently. Instead, he runs into the TC Fire of Drongo, who is opening with a stable. Drongo indeed went with the Kremlin, so he should have this lumber camp buffed as well, and it also protects his gold mine. That's a beautiful building out there for him. So, as things stand, we will have Prelate buffing the eco of Viper over here on the Woodlands as well. So not only does he have a Prelate garrisoned inside this Arcane Chapel, he also has a second Prelate buffing all those lumberjacks. Meanwhile, here comes Drongo, and considering that he's got quite a sizable force of scouts, he could try harassing Viper, who hasn't gotten textiles yet. He's just now going for it. It's a pretty expensive upgrade, but it gives a pretty big boost to the villager's HP. But Drongo doesn't need to fight this. He has just gotten professional scouts, and what's gonna happen is that he's gonna lame Viper's huntables. This is so common with the Rus. Once you sort of killed all the animals with your scouts, you would just swoop in and lame the huntables of your opponent. That is why Drongo has gotten professional scouts. This deer patch is still unnoticed, and since Drongo already has the second tier of the bounty system, I actually have to say that if he finds this one, he's gonna be in an extremely good position. Plus, of course, stealing a lot of huntables from Viper is massive. I'm not sure how I feel about that mechanic, to be honest, because I feel like there's just no way to counter it. Like, the scouts just run in, take the huntable, and run out, and they're tanky enough to absorb some damage and then run back. You see, these scouts took some damage from the TC. By the way, they're self-healing slowly, so that's not gonna matter at all. And they just run in, take your huntables, and run out. And Drongo's gonna do the exact same thing with this patch of huntables here. Meanwhile, for Viper, he is looping around with that Prelate. I wonder what he's up to. Prelates are only able to capture sacred sites beyond Castle Age, I believe, so Viper should not be able to capture this if I'm correct, right? Yup, that's not a possibility. So the only civilization that can capture sacred sites in Feudal Age is the Delhi, if they get their technology for that, I think. Or the Abbasids. I always confuse two civilizations with that ability, so apologies for that. As much as these players are learning the game, that applies to me as well. Anyways, the Kremlin here is going to protect Drongo's base without any further problems, so Viper won't really be able to push this one. I like the Spearman plus Archer composition. Drongo's gonna need a couple of his own archers as well, but Drongo, I think, is over-investing into Knights. Because if he goes double stable Knights, then Viper's Spearman will be able to destroy him. Now, Viper won't really have enough Spearmen to fight this right now. That's the problem for him. Like you see, Drongo already has 4 Knights versus 3 Spearmen. And while Spearmen do well against Knights, the Knights are still more powerful one-on-one than a single Spearman. Especially if you can charge in. So Viper needs a lot more Spearmen here to fight this. So far, it's only 1 barracks worth of production. Keep in mind that Viper's economy is absolutely crazy, and look at this. He's already going up with the Regnitz Cathedral. The Regnitz Cathedral gives you an insane gold income once you garrison relics inside. It's actually going to be 300 gold per relic. The indicator will be wrong on the building. Standard relic gives you 100 gold per minute in a monastery, and 300 in the Regnitz Cathedral. So you see, here's the catch. Drongo is waiting quite a lot to push Viper with a big force. That's gonna be a lot of knights, a lot of archers. But if he's waiting too long, Viper will get to Castle Age, and the moment Viper gets to Castle Age, things start to change dramatically. First off, Viper can also make his own knights. Second, Viper would have way better blacksmith upgrades. Third, and that's the biggest thing, Viper would have access to crossbowmen, which just melt the armor of the knights. The entire concept of the early knights play from the ruse, as Drongo is coming in to try and kill the boar for 65 gold bounty. Actually, 75. Did I say 65? Why do I remember 65? Hold on. 75 now for boars. For whatever reason, I thought it's 65, but it's 75 anyways. Drongo is at 375 bounty right now. So, getting the crossbowman would allow Viper to just destroy the armor of those knights very, very easily. And that's not something that he has tools to do in Feudal Age. So, the big difference here for him is that he would finally get an armor-piercing unit in Castle Age, something that he doesn't have in Feudal. Plus, of course, he could also start getting men-at-arms out, because the men-at-arms in Castle Age get quite a few fancy upgrades for the Holy Roman Empire. The maces allow them to have bonus damage against heavy targets, so men-at-arms themselves would perform much better against knights than they used to do, and that's a beautiful position for Drongo to be in, by the way. He's killing the boar, killing the wolf as well. So Viper is up to Castle Age. Drongo, it looks like he's just going for the huntables here, not really going for an aggressive gameplay. Going for a couple of archers as well, double ranges right now for him, but from this point on, the archers don't really make a huge amount of sense here for Drongo, because Viper can just go for his own men-at-arms, and here comes Viper capturing one sacred site and the second one as well. For whatever reason, the indicator is not showing up here. I think that's because the prelate was in there the whole time. Anyways, some knights swoop in. Viper did lose 4 villagers over here, so that was far from ideal, but he's preparing a ram push against Drongo. And meanwhile, Drongo is going to lose 1 knight to TC Viper pulls the archer, or the spearman, excuse me, back. Looks like Viper even pushed up with the prelates from the Arcane Chapel for the time being, so that he can capture the sacred sites, which also give Viper a very good trickle of gold. And now he's gonna go for the relics. And once he gets the relics, he's gonna have an insane resource income. It looks like the scout found Viper's prelate over here, and Viper tried to get the conversion in there to try and discourage that, but that's not gonna happen. And there's a knight coming in. Viper used up his conversion power, so that prelate is gonna go down. That's an expensive loss for Viper, and very, very nice map control by Drongo. He saw that Viper converted the sacred site, so he's gonna send in some units to kill what will be a prelate on that side. And on the other side, the same thing is gonna happen. So Viper wasn't really careful with those prelates. He is going to lose 2 of them right now. And look at Drongo's map awareness. I like that. 1 knight on each of these relics, because he knows exactly that Viper probably issued the Ragnitz Cathedral, and he's looking for the relics. Meanwhile, Viper is assembling a fairly sizable force over here in the middle. He's got the Veteran Spearmen already, which are Castle Age units. Drongo only has Feudal units right now. And if you look at the blacksmith upgrades, Viper has gotten no blacksmith upgrades just yet. I think marching drills would be pretty important for him right now. Plus the archer defense upgrade would be pretty helpful still. Looks like Viper will send a spearman to try and deal with that knight out there. Meanwhile, Drongo is spreading out his scouts in stealth forests to give him a very nice vision across the map. Look at this. He's got a very, very good vision on the map. In fact, he sees the battering rams. The question is, can he do anything against that? Because his forces aren't really powerful here, and that's already the first out of 2 landmarks for Drongo potentially going down. And he's still Feudal Age, remember that. Now, Viper doesn't have a lot of Castle Age upgrades, but that's 4 battering rams. And Viper should pop his units out. Oh, that's a beautiful pop. Drongo sending in everything he's got to destroy the rams. Archers also popping out for Viper. The choke point is very nice over here. Looks like Drongo is able to focus down the spearmen, however, and I'm not sure if this push is enough here for Viper. He might destroy the Kremlin, but that can be rebuilt relatively easily, and this is a very, very expensive push for Viper that goes down the drain. Those archers just don't do much against those knights, and indeed, it looks like Drongo is gonna be able to hold it. He will lose the Kremlin temporarily, but he can just rebuild that. That's not really a big deal for him. Meanwhile, for Viper, looks like he's still tempted to grab those relics over here. In fact, there was a relic here that's gone. Makes me wonder if Viper already brought it back, and indeed that's the case. Drongo now launching a counterattack, trying to neutralize the sacred sites, as the prelate wanders into the battlefield completely defenseless. Drongo actually has a lot of villagers chasing down that ram. He's like, okay, you're not getting away with that ram. A ram costs quite a lot of wood. It's 300 wood, so losing that is pretty costly for Viper. Anyways, Viper now has gotten 1 relic in. As I said, this indicator is wrong. This is actually 300 gold per minute for Viper. One thing I don't like here for Viper is that he doesn't have a prelate in the Aachen Chapel anymore. I think you still want to have one guy inside, especially when you're floating 1800 gold. Just get one prelate from your TC and keep buffing your economy. That would help so much. So, I understand the early concept of oh boy. Not the early concept of oh boy, but that's a dead prelate for Viper if I've ever seen any. Oh, wait a minute! Wait a minute! The knight actually continued to attack the wolf, and the prelate just escapes through the stealth forest. Oh man, that was a beauty. I'm not sure if this was intended by a Viper or so, but it looked fancy for sure. So you most definitely want to garrison a prelate in your Aachen Chapel all the time. Viper also has a lot of TC idle time right now, adding a second barracks. Meanwhile for Drongo, he is still in feudal age, only playing 1 town center if I'm not mistaken, so he has a very extended feudal age over here, something that's gonna backfire eventually because he can't get castle age eco upgrades whatsoever. He also needs new lumber camps on this wood line because he's taking the wood very far away. And it looks like Viper is just going for the sacred sites right now. Oh boy. Okay, now he sees the knight and he's gonna send in someone to deal with that knight out there. If he gets 3 relics, he's gonna have an insane gold income, and looks like he's mixing in some Landsknechts. Now, excuse me, I messed up the name. Someone on stream taught me how to pronounce this, so I think it's Landsknecht. But, okay, I'm still in the learning phase, okay? Just be patient with me. Anyways, that's not a good unit here. The Landsknecht is a light infantry unit, which means that the archers get bonus against it. Here you want, I think, a men-at-arms crossbowman for Viper. Anyways, it looks like he's gonna have to abandon his forward position over here, getting some more Landsknecht out. Meanwhile, Viper trying to yoink the relic over here, and he might be able to. He's gonna lose the prelate, but he gets that relic closer to his base. Also trying to get the sacred site, but that's gonna be a lost prelate there as well. Drongo seems to be ahead in this game quite a bit, despite the fact that he's still in feudal. But obviously, Viper would have a way better economy if he's able to stabilize here, so that's something that shouldn't be overlooked. Right now, both players are playing on 1 town center. So, at this point, Viper is mixing a lot of Landsknechts. Now, these guys have area damage with their melee attack, but they're extremely fragile, so they're not good against archers. It looks like this knight just got bored of chasing this prelate, and this guy's gonna get back home. That's a bit of a blunder there for Drongo. He could have killed this prelate. And now that's a problem. I think he just garrisoned his prelate with the relic inside the Aachen Chapel. But he wanted into the cathedral. Of course, he doesn't want to go in there right now because he's afraid of his monk getting picked off by the archers. It's quite a lot of archers there for Drongo. As I said, Men-at-Arms is the name of the game, but looks like Viper is resilient going for the Landsknechts. Meanwhile, looks like this prelate is wandering out. I wonder if it's gonna be for this relic out there. Archer's now pushing Viper's wood line. Viper will have to relocate that. The Regnitz Cathedral is under fire, as Drongo has just reached Castle Age. He is now gonna have the chance to go for Cav Archers. He's also taking the hunt over here that he killed previously. That's a very nice move. Here come the Landsknecht though, and there is also a couple of crossbowmen to pick off the knights, so Viper will be able to tank this one out for the time being. But you see, those Landsknechts just die so easily. Once they close distance, they're absolute beasts, but I just don't like that, well, I have no problem with them dying, I just don't like the Viper is using them right now against mass archers. Still, if they close distance, they can be really devastating. It's just a matter of closing the distance right now. Drongo needs to use his knights as a meat shield here. Currently, the archers of Drongo will be able to beat everything that Viper's got. It's a matter of having enough meat shield to make sure the archers don't get slaughtered by those melee units. You see now, Viper has quite a lot of crossbows, so they can just melt the armor of those knights over there. And it looks like Drongo will be forced back temporarily, but as the Cav Archer numbers increase, it's gonna be extremely difficult for Viper to do anything with those Landsknechts. Anyways, for Viper, looks like he's once again taking the sacred site. Once again, Drongo's gonna swoop in with that scout and probably kill the prelate. Drongo aged up with the Abbey of Trinity, which allows him to make warrior monks. That's pretty important for Drongo here, because he wants to grab those relics before Viper does. As I said, this prelate once again will have to escape, and the scout will just say, okay, I'm gonna go back because this guy apparently hit himself in the Stealth Forest. So Stealth Forests are really helping Viper right now, as it looks like he's got quite a few crossbowmen coming out. He's getting the second defense upgrade already, but he's now getting forced back by Cav Archers. So Cav Archers have a shorter range than Foot Archers in most cases. You see it's 4.5 versus 5, but they still fire faster than crossbowmen, so Cav Archers should be able to beat crossbowmen no trouble. Once Viper mixes in some archers, it's a different story, because Foot Archers are usually better in, well, not 1v1, but Foot Archers are meant to defeat Cav Archers because they have higher range and it's easier to mass them. Still, of course, Cav Archers are more population efficient, plus you always have the ability to run away in case you don't like a certain combat. So Viper is still with one relic inside the cathedral right now, taking position on top of the hill in that stealth forest, as Drongo himself is coming in to take the relics and also secure the sacred sites. As things stand, we do have now a prelate inside this Aachen Chapel for Viper, but I think he forgot about the fact that this prelate was carrying a relic, so that's quite a lot of lost gold income for him. Looking at Drongo, he's now going for Cav Archers, which only cost food and wood, so Drongo is not consuming gold here, that's why he is already floating a lot. Interesting is the fact that he's got a warrior monk over here. Maybe he wants to try to get a conversion once Viper has a lot of melee units. I can see that being a thing. So far Viper is just going for crossbow archer combination, so some horsemen from Drongo would absolutely melt this. Horsemen destroy both archers and crossbowmen. And Drongo's got the stables to get a couple of them out, but so far he's going for knights plus Cav Archers. Here come the warrior monks. Now warrior monks are pretty tanky, they have 210 HP. They're actually pretty decent in combat in general. But the big deal is that, of course, they have the mobility with the relics, and they also have the ability to run away with them. That's a pretty massive boost compared to, let's say, Viper's prelates that are slow moving. You see they have 90 HP, they're slow moving, and they can't even fight back if they get attacked by, I don't know, just a single scout or knight or so, right? Viper lost some monks to scouts here because his monks cannot fight back, but while warrior monks can, so warrior monks are definitely a massive boost to the Rus. Anyways, looks like Drongo is not messing around. He's got like 6 or 7 ranges out here. Also has expanded his eco quite considerably to the north. Now, the big gold mines are up top over here for both players, and they will have to start expanding towards that because they're running short on gold at their starting bases. Viper has now garrisoned the relic inside the Aachen Chapel, so he's gonna have an impressive gold income now. And for Drongo, he's getting a siege workshop up, so he wants to get a couple of mangonels potentially to get some shots on those archers. So Cav Archer Mangonel is the name of the game. Neither of the players are close to Imperial, but both of them are actually floating a huge amount of gold, and both of them are mining stone. Makes me wonder if either of them is thinking about getting a castle up on this crucial hill, because I think whoever gets a castle there is going to be an absolutely amazing forward position against the opponent. This is basically the key hill in the game. Viper is coming in with the prelate to get this sacred site. He's going to go for the other one as well. Drongo will have one on the right side. Meanwhile, here comes Drongo with the Cav Archers. Looking at the upgrades, I want to check what upgrades Drongo has. So looking at Drongo's upgrades, he's missing the second defense upgrade, which is a pretty big problem against Foot Archers over here. He's got the attack upgrades though. Also, Drongo is missing Military Academy, which is a pretty nice upgrade for production speed. And Viper is just now grabbing that. This is a pretty good upgrade over here. So, reduces the training time it takes to produce infantry, cavalry, siege, and transport units. I wonder if it actually doesn't apply to archers. It's a little weird. But nonetheless, this is still a very, very good upgrade. It's almost like conscription in AoE too. Anyways, Drongo swoops in, snipes the prelate as he's trying to neutralize that sacred site. But as I said, Foot Archers should be able to take very good fights against Cav Archers. Especially if there is some men-at-arms in the party. Here comes Drongo though with the conversion attempt. Fails with the first one, fails with the second one, and now he has given Viper 2 relics. This fight over here at the hilltop could be a deciding fight in this game. Viper now has some men-at-arms and he's got the maces upgrade as well, so they do pretty well against heavy units. And these guys have a lot of pierce armor now, so It's gonna be extremely difficult for Drongo to fight this one. You see, his units are barely doing damage to those Macemen, and he needs to pop out a couple of crossbowmen to deal with this. He will be able to clean this one up, but the losses that he has taken is just massive. He loses a Mangonel there as well, and now Viper is gonna use his heal advantage to try and pick off a couple of vills. This fight over here in the last, like 1 minute or so, is probably the fight for the game. Because not only did Viper decisively win that fight, and just destroy the entire force of Drongo, he now has a very good forward position on this hill that he can castle in a moment. He has gotten 2 extra relics. In fact, he can't even garrison all 3 of, or all 4 of them now in the Aachen Chapel, so he's just gonna have to go for the monastery here. But that's a lot of relic gold income for Viper. He also has 2 sacred sites as opposed to 1. And as I said, he's got the stone to make a keep right now. He's preparing another ram push here. What is Drongo gonna do against the Maceman? That's the problem that he's facing right now. He needs some crossbowmen, but it's a difficult situation because Viper's got archers, and the archers will just destroy the crossbowmen, and then, once again, Drongo doesn't have armor-piercing power against the men-at-arms. So, yeah, in Feudal Age, the Holy Roman Empire is a little underwhelming, but once they get to Castle Age, they become pretty beastly. They have a very good economy thanks to the Aachen Chapel that the Prelate can garrison into. They have an amazing gold income from the Ragnitz Cathedral once they get relics. And then the Maceman, or well, it's men-at-arms still, but they now have heavy maces, is a very, very good meat shield type unit because it performs pretty decently against pretty much everything. It has a lot of arrow fire resistance, it is capable of doing some decent damage to the opponent's heavy cavalry as well. And you see Viper is just diving in, sniping that Mangonel, knowing that the cav archers can barely scratch the surface of the armor for these bad guys. Meanwhile, here come the battering rams. Viper is knocking down the Kremlin, and now he's gonna start pushing those ranges. Meanwhile, Viper is now going for full crossbowmen, which is not ideal, because crossbowmen should still not be able to deal with the horse archers, although it depends on the numbers and upgrades, of course, and I think Viper's got way better numbers, so I think that Viper would still win a fight here. Drongo trying to come up with a defensive keep, but I struggle to see how he would be able to finish this building here. Looks like Viper is focusing on the north though, so Drongo might get away with that keep out there, as there are some knights swooping in, but you see those knights will do absolutely nothing. What Drongo really needs is horsemen, because the horsemen would be able to deal with both the archers and the crossbowmen very nicely. They wouldn't perform very well against the macemen, but you would decimate the archer numbers of Viper pretty heavily, and that would allow your cav archers take much better engagements. Now here come a couple of Mangonels. Drongo's gonna take some shots on that prelate. Well, this guy's still alive. Viper didn't really notice, so he's probably gonna lose that prelate. Oh, nope. He's running away, so Viper did notice. Now, those Mangonels are getting some very nice hits on those crossbowmen. You see, the keep also goes up for Drongo, so he might be able to hold this one off for a time being. Both players still in Castle Age. Viper's got a huge amount of stone, so he could get a keep of his own. Mangonels, once again, will be exposed to the men-at-arms. Viper just tries to dive in and snipe those, but with the keep fire and the cav archer fire, that's a little too much for those men-at-arms to handle. Can they kill one, maybe? Looks like not. Anyways, Viper's forces still are in a pretty big quantity over here on the north. Viper now secured the 3rd sacred site as well, so the sacred site victory condition starts. And what's bigger for him is that, of course, he's just smashing the food eco of his opponent here, and the production buildings as well. That's like 6 archer ranges that went down here to the battering rams. Very, very costly for Drongo, and I think Viper is just trying to go for the Mangonels of the battering rams. I'm not even sure if you can actually attack siege weapons battering rams in this game. In AoE2 you could, so that's why I'm assuming that it might be a possibility. But if it's not, then you just go in with the rams, and they just smash through the entire base of the Drongo, as the Mangonels also go down. Currently, there isn't really much that Drongo can do against those 4 men-at-arms, as Viper looks like he's still going to play full Castle Age here. Doesn't seem like he wants to go to Imperial, whereas for Drongo, I mean, he needs to hold this one off in Castle Age. Because if he goes into Imperial, I don't think that he has a long enough time here to get to Imperial, get the upgrades he needs, and take a fight using better units. That's just not a possibility here, I think. So it looks like Drongo is gonna be able to clean up these battering rams. By the way, the Kremlin was already destroyed by Viper. So there is 2 more landmarks to take down. One of them is the starting TC, which is this one. The other one is the Abbey of Trinity. Both of those are pretty accessible for Viper to destroy, to be honest. So Drongo has to be careful as he's rebuilding his archer ranges on the north. Meanwhile, oh, look at this. Tower rush coming in here by the Drongo to try and neutralize that sacred site. He doesn't really have army to spare, so he's just gonna send in a couple of villagers to try and take at least one back and prevent Viper from winning the game on a sacred site victory. Anyways, Viper's push stalls out a little bit over here, but now he's got a beautiful hill position here with a trebuchet as he just keeps shelling that keep. Looks like all the rams went down. Drongo still has a pretty sizable eco. Viper's at 68 right now, whereas for Drongo that's 90, so Drongo still has the eco lead here. So I see why he's not tapping out of this one, despite the fact that it looks kind of grim. But now Springolds come in for the Viper. The Springolds have 10,000 range, whereas the Mangonels do have 9. So Springolds are actually very, very good units to destroy siege weapons with. They're also pretty handy when it comes to attacking castles, because the keeps themselves have 8 range. So the Springolds can help out destroying castles very, very easily as well. Looks like we will have a couple of Landsknecht moving to the north to try and prevent Drongo from neutralizing that sacred site. A battering ram will take down tower as well. That's gonna be a slaughter. These guys have area damage and these villas are clumped up like crazy. Look at that. I told you that Landsknecht are very fragile, but now that's what we call massive area damage. Speaking of which, here comes Viper, pushing up with a couple of Springolds as well. Has got some support Mangonels, a trebuchet as well as the keep went down. Remember, the Kremlin is gone. The starting TC and the Abbey of Trinity are both exposed to the trebuchet. So at this point, if Drongo isn't able to stop this push, he's going to lose his landmarks and lose the game that way. Viper still in Castle Age here. Looks like it's gonna be a full Castle Age game from him. Of course, he's benefiting massively from the relics, although he actually forgot to garrison this one into the monastery. But yeah, he's gathering gold at an insane rate. By the way, this guy, or this upgrade to be precise, would be pretty decent for Viper. Prelates can inspire military units, improving their armor +1 and their damage by 15%. That would be a very good upgrade, and it's relatively cheap for the Viper, as he gets a keep up in the middle. Drongo needs to neutralize at least one sacred site, but he's got the mobility advantage, so he could actually neutralize this one by himself some time here. Here comes the big battle, though. Viper's got a beautiful position on the top of the hill, though. There is some crossbowmen for Drongo being mixed in here, though. So that can take down the heavy infantry, and if Drongo finds a way on top of those archers, this could be good. Viper doesn't have a huge amount of crossbowmen here. Still, I don't think that Drongo's numbers are sufficient over here, and this may have been the final battle here for Drongo, because the Abbey of Trinity is already being shelled by the Trebs, and I just don't think that he's got the army to fight this. He's got an insane eco, 92 villagers, but only 10 army, whereas for Viper, looks like he's going to grab the game here. Once he has gotten to Castle Age, the Holy Roman Empire is a very, very flexible civilization and has an insanely good economy. So it was all about, okay, I got to Castle Age, now I have access to crossbowmen so I can destroy your knights. The real advantage that the Rus get over the Holy Roman Empire is in Feudal Age, because in Feudal Age, there isn't really a good answer from the Holy Roman Empire to archers and knights, but Drongo didn't play very aggressive in Feudal. He decided to go for the bounty instead and went to expand his eco, but that allowed Viper to get to Castle Age very fast. And once he secured 3 relics in the Regnitz Cathedral as well, it was just sufficient to win the game for him. Drongo also tried to go for a lot of cav archers, but this map doesn't require that much mobility, I think. Like, there was basically a central ridge where the fights were taking place. So you want brute force power instead of mobility. If this was a much more open map where the 2 players are further apart, I can see the cav archers being the better unit just because of the mobility factor. But here, Drongo just couldn't use his mobility at all. It was all about, okay, you gotta push up a hill, which is guarded by 15 million archers from Viper, and that's not really what cav archers are suitable for. You see, Drongo had a way better eco, even better KD than Viper, but it was just the fact that Viper was able to steamroll the game because he had a way better army in especially here in late game. And then there was that critical fight that they took on the top of the hill, where Drongo tried the conversions twice. They got, like, the warrior monks got killed very, very easily, and his cav archers just got slaughtered by the archers. After that fight, he never was able to recover.